But we have the state's response to that too. That just dropped like in the last hour or so. So we have both of those that we have to take a look at. But she submitted an affidavit with her motion, which is really bizarre to me, because if you're
Lori?
your own, yes.
Okay.
If you're your own defense attorney, why do you need to submit an affidavit with a motion?
She got to have a witness. It's like me, myself, and Irene, you know. Oh my
Megan,
God.
I think, are you muted? Is Megan muted?
Sorry, guys.
Stop it, Lori Portal and Chad Portal. Damn it. Your bullshit. Okay.
I know you had something to say there. I saw you say it, but I didn't hear it.
Yeah, I've said to myself so many times during this trial that I'm not an attorney and I don't understand all of the rules of legal procedure. But it does seem to be that there is some weird stuff going on.
Weird.
in
Oh,
Lori's
shit.
brain and with
okay.
her, legal motions and all of that. So also, I'm going to just apologize in advance because I am an eternal optimist. I always think that I can get more done in a space of time than I actually can. So I'm going to be off camera a little bit because I have not eaten. And so
Oh, girl.
I'm going to be eating while I'm going to multitask while we're doing this here. So I apologize.
Yes. Yeah. I just did the wonderful oven pizza right before we came on live. So
I ate before we did too. I've learned.
Full disclosure, I'm going on Web Sleuths right after this. So I'm not going to have time in between. That's all I'm saying.
There you go. Okay. Do what you gotta do, girl.
Well, let's get to it then. Let's take a look at this document.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Take a deep breath. Here we go.
Jury selection starts tomorrow, right?
It does. And I was going to ask Joe, do you know if they're going to be streaming jury selection?
So what they did last time was they streamed the version of tomorrow, which was the attorneys and lawyer Lori, going over the questionnaires that came back. So they send out electronic questionnaires, they get them back, and that's what they're going over tomorrow. They sent out 300 of them. So they're going to be like canceling the ones that are obviously cancelable, right?
Like, oh no, Lori's name's going out tomorrow. Or whenever.
That is way too much personal information. It's an invasion of her privacy and a violation of her Sixth Amendment rights.
Oh my God.
Right. But they did stream that last time. But then the day after that, which is going to be the version of Friday, which is in person, the jury shows up. So there's group voir dire and then there's individual voir dire. They didn't stream that, and that's what we attended. Trace and I attended last time, and I will be attending on Friday. I haven't made up my mind if I'm going to go tomorrow. Like, it doesn't seem like there's a good return on the investment there to go attend that.
Well,
show.
I'm feeling for you because I'm remembering deja vu all over again. I'm so glad that I'm going to be reporting right here from this comfy chair in my own house.
Yep. Yeah, it sucked to see, especially you, Megan, like be so spread thin. And I know what it's like. It's heavy. It's heavy, and she sucks the life out of the room. And it's like it all comes to a head, so to speak, and it hits you while you're in there sometimes. And yeah. And I mean, Joe, you spread yourself thin too. Yeah. And it will be watching remotely, so I can't imagine what it's
remote
like.
Viewing?
Oh yeah, girl. We are RVs. Right? Without Tom Harrison.
Yep.
Anyways, sorry, Joe. Sorry.
Yeah, no. It's fine, and it is draining, and I don't even have a fraction of the emotional investment in this that you guys do. So I appreciate you joining me and inviting me to join you. But it even was for me. Like it was hard to sit through parts of the trial. Very, very hard to, and very emotionally.
Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service, Joe.
Well, it's always interesting to me, and I find trial procedure to be fascinating personally, because I'm a very analytical person, but there is a certain amount of tedium to it because what I wish is that, you know, they could just get up there and do a narrative. Like Nancy Joe said, I laughed so hard when she just went, am I allowed to do a narrative then?
Yeah,
You know,
like rolling up her sleeves, like, come on, taking their earrings out.
But they have to lay so much foundation on who the person is and how they're involved in the case and what their qualifications are. And then they go through this methodical, you know, procedural stuff. And it can be really taxing and draining and boring. But at the same time, I appreciate that because I want to know all the things. And I know for some people it's too much to go through, which is why we do what we do. You know, the summaries that I do at, you know, lunchtime and at the end of the day, it's because people check out, you know, and it is hard to pay attention to it. So,
yeah. And it's hard if you're not there in person to see some of the subtle things that go on between Lori and her advisory council, between the jury and the jurors. I mean,
and I will miss that part of it because there were some times when there were some audible gasps from the gallery. There were some times when there were some raised eyebrows in the jury box. There were some times when there were shenanigans going on amongst the, and I don't want to say, I shouldn't paint it as shenanigans, but the
just
court
the regular
personnel were doing their job, right? But it was always obvious when something was not going well because there was a flurry of activity. And, you know, at one point, Trina Kay got her exhibits out of order. And she was noticeably upset about that. Her paralegal was getting some dagger eyes. So yeah, I mean, those little nuances, I really am sad to be missing those because those are the things that I feel like I enjoy being able to pick up on those and let people know what's going on. But it is what it is at this point, and I know I'm going to be safer and happier here. So
you're like a people watcher. I always have been, you know, like just observing people, and I don't know.
Me too. I noticed juror number 15 from day one. Like he struck me as an oddball from day one. I was like,
yes,
this guy's going to be trouble. You know, and then he got called in front of the judge three times for different things, 2 with his phone and then 1 with juror number 16. And I'm like,
damn, Social Security.
It was there was a certain I hate like this word is forever tainted for me, but there was a certain nonchalance about juror 15. He was almost always chewing gum as he came into the courtroom, had a hand in his pocket, you know, clearly didn't realize that his phone was ringing when it was sitting on the little stand next to the microphone. And the first time that I heard that noise and everybody in the courtroom was kind of like, what is that noise? And I'm like, duh, it's a phone ringing. It was like, it's like very rhythmic. That's obviously what it is. And he was the one who set his phone there.
Was that the day that detective was on the stand and everybody, he was like this?
Yes, he was like, what's going on? Are we being invaded? So I need to take evasive action.
His eyes. I was like, oh my God, like it's like you could read his thoughts. You know, he was just like,
it was like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It was like that kind of moment.
It was just Carl. Just Carl.
Yeah, there just was a level of unawareness.
It's like Carl's and Karen's.
Oh, that's going to be the title of my first book that I write. It's going to be Close Encounters of the 15th Juror Kind.
A Day in Court with Carl. I actually think that'd be an awesome children's book. You know, like a children's but not children's, like the go the F to sleep one.
Right.
Like put your phone the F away.
I was like, damn, girl. It reminds me of Jason Howell, his children's book. It's about, they go together about like that. Oh my God. I like your title there. So
also just fair warning, guys. I took my medicine way too late in the day yesterday.
Oh, shit.
And as a result, I did not get to sleep until very late. And there was a giant thunderstorm. I heard you talking about that on your live, Crush. I listened to you guys' episode earlier today. So I woke up at about 4:00 this morning and I've been on the ground running ever since. So this is like literally the first time that I'm sitting down, and I've got my comfort food in front of me here. God only knows why I wanted to make roasted tomato basil soup on a 95-degree day, but I've got tomato basil soup and a grilled pesto chicken cheese sandwich.
Oh, that sounds so good. That does sound really good.
It does.
Smells delicious.
But if you fall asleep in it, we'll try and wake you up before you drown.
Thank you, because I have an appearance on Web Sleuth, so make sure I don't miss it.
Deuce Bigelow, okay. and the woman was narcoleptic, and so her hair was in a ponytail, and so problem solving, and she fell asleep, and it would catch. Anyways, y'all had to see it. Deuce Bigelow, American Gigolo. It's funny, ha ha ha.
Well, I'm gonna turn off. Well, okay, Miss Smith. I actually made green chili chicken enchiladas
2
days ago. And I made the real, and I made a video of it, and I'm going to be posting the video, and the full recipe will go up on my Patreon, but the video has almost everything in it. So
there you go. I need some damn funeral potatoes before it's all over.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. I'll make some for you.
Trace's daughter made funeral potatoes on Monday to go along with my brunch that I made. Yeah, they were pretty darn good. They were pretty darn good. Yep.
Well,
all right.
I'm ready to get this over with. Yeah. Like not tonight, but like this trial. So ready. But I'm also gonna kind of miss it. I mean, I know that sounds psychotic, right? But it's like we've been doing this for 6 years straight, and there's always been another trial, and that's not happening this time. So I don't know. I've got feelings attached, you know. And just trying to tell myself that it's not over. It's just an end to this. It's a closure of this. Hopefully.
So both of you can weigh in on this. What do you think the odds are that any type of a third party will ever be charged in this, like either of the Melanies, or any other third party? Like, what are the odds? If they haven't been charged at this point, are they ever going to?
They'll be charged with our RICO, right, Megan? No, we got to work on that for sure.
Yes, I'm excited to dig into that with you.
That's another way.
I hesitate to kind of put a percentage on it, but I know that Trina K will prosecute if there is enough evidence to get a conviction. I know she will. So,
yeah, I mean, and I'm down for lesser charges. Like
I am too. Accessory or accessory after the fact, or any kind of conspiracy, whatever.
Yeah, we're not picky.
Yeah.
Hell, we'll help you.
Well, not only are we not picky, we all feel like there was some complicit behavior associated with some of those other people.
100%. And I will tell you, it was shocking to me. I really wanted to believe the best about everybody. That's just the way I operate. I want to believe the best about everyone. I want to believe in good intentions. I want to believe in contrition. But it was shocking for me to listen to the Chad Daybell trial and listen to the recordings of Melanie on the phone with Chad and Lori after Alex's death. And then it wasn't until I heard that testimony that I then went back and watched the body camera footage of Melanie being arrested at her former in-laws house, with Alex sitting in the van on the street with weapons in the car. And it blew my mind. And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't give the benefit of the doubt on that anymore.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. For real.
It took me a while to get there, but I've been there. I've been there for a long time.
It sucks. And I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you got there. And I mean, it's worth it. It's the right thing. And, in your heart of hearts, right? And it's not like you're condemning anybody for life. It's just, it's like you have to kind of, it's like way between innocent children and innocent victims versus this system, and the way they're acting is crazy.
Thank you, Big Monkey.
I'm just glad you call it out. That's all. I really am. We need a lot more people like you.
Well, I mean, look, if you want to be an a-hole and go, get in a bar fight and mess up some dude or whatever, the two of you go at it and bruise each other up. Okay, whatever. I will not give any sort of leeway to anybody who participates in the harm of children. And I don't care how severe the harm is. If there's not 100% contrition, if there's not reparation, if there's not an admission of guilt, like I just can't abide that. I can't understand it. And I won't ever give any sort of leeway for people who participate in the harm of children. I just won't.
And there's no contrition at all with Lori or either of the Melanies. None of them whatsoever.
None.
Exactly. If there was contrition, we would have the full story. We would know everything about everything that happened between that group. We would know exactly what happened to the kids and when and who was involved. If there was any contrition at all, they would come forward and they would tell us the entire story. But they won't do that because they're too ashamed of their own role in it.
And of what they'll lose. Temple recommend, face. They're trying to save face, and it's all about.
Let me ask them this question though: if they're watching, and who knows if they will ever see anything like this, on any one of our channels. I have a feeling some of them do.
Oh yeah.
Well, let me ask you this question, just full face on. Is your temple recommend? Do you really feel good going to the temple, knowing that you have information that could ease the suffering of the family members of the children that you helped unalive? How does that feel? Does that feel good going to the temple? Do you enjoy your freedom? Do you sleep well at night? Is there any part of you at all that is disappointed in yourself for the role that you played? Because I'll guarantee you this, and I say this all the time because it's me, because I'm calling myself out. There is a moment between awake and asleep when you are alone at night, and it's only you and your thoughts. And that is the time when you have the reckoning. And if you have made amends with all the people in your life and you feel good about your choices, you're going to sleep just fine. But it's that time between awake and asleep that your conscience comes to call, and your conscience comes to collect.
I like that.
And may you never have another night's peace if you participated in harming children. The end.
Yeah. And may you never have another night's peace.
And your salvation is at stake. For real. Like what's the point of worshiping Jesus or anybody? If it's disgusting.
The Mormon part of my brain, it's hard to kill those brain cells. I'm trying real hard. But, there's a scripture that sticks in my mind. And I want to say it probably is a Mormon scripture because it doesn't sound biblical to me. But it has a little bit of a ring of truth to it. I don't believe that the Book of Mormon is the word of God, obviously, but I do believe in the power of myth. And I think that all mythological stories have value in some way. And that's how I view the Book of Mormon now. But there is a quote that sort of echoes in my ears when we talk about things like this. And it's something to the effect of that the people who are falsely worshiping and falsely pretending to be believers, they are drinking damnation to their soul. There's something kind of poetic about that.
And then it's like a rot or a cancer or, because then I don't know. It's like these like-minded individuals. It's like they transfer it to one another. It's weird, but yet they talk about unbelief and it makes no sense to me. It's so what is the word? Hypocritical, it's
well, the power of rationalization in these groups is what gets me, because when I went in for my Temple Recommend interview, I felt guilty that I had drank Mountain Dew. Like I drank a caffeinated beverage, and I felt
was never
guilty
against
for
the word
that.
of wisdom, Joe.
but I was taught that it was. I was taught.
Yeah.
And so the bishop or the stake president or whoever it was said, "Do you follow the word of wisdom?" And I'm like, yeah. And I felt like I was fibbing. I didn't feel like it was like a huge, gigantic lie, but what are these people doing to get there? What was she doing? What was Lori doing to get her temple recommend? You know?
Oh, she had to have lied. She 100%, except for that one time she did tell the truth. You know, if she's telling the truth on the podcast where she said, I was either going to murder my ex-husband or get a temple recommend. And I think she did really say that to her stake president or whoever did the interview. And they probably thought, oh, she's probably not telling the truth. I mean, you know, like she's probably kidding about that. She's hyperbolizing. She's not really going to kill anybody, but she wants to go to the temple. And if she wants to go to the temple, we should let her go to the temple.
And they went to the temple in and around every single one of the victims.
I know. It's so sick.
Every one of them. Why?
And it was blowing my mind how you guys were drawing the parallels between OUR and what was happening. And I texted this to you, Crush. I don't know if you saw.
Oh, you did? Oh.
So when Melanie was in Kauai with Lori, the weekend that Tammy was killed, she made a payment of $6,000 to Operation Underground Railroad.
You do know that?
Yes.
I've not been able to substantiate that.
Well, okay. I've heard. I don't have receipts.
Okay.
So I'm always going to say, if I don't have receipts, I'm always going to say I don't have receipts.
Yeah.
But there is that information out there, right? What business does a newly divorced single mother of 4 have to be giving $6,000 to an organization as a donation?
Right.
So what I texted you is, what are the chances that money got paid to OUR and somehow found its way back to Alex as payment for whatever it is he did?
Wouldn't surprise me at all. It's laundering, and there's a lot of that going on. A lot of that going on.
Yeah, and
that would not surprise me at all.
These guys are so dumb. It's textbook money laundering stuff. Like, I know this guy and I'm going to pay him and then he's going to pay you. Or
just like we're going to piano money. Do you remember that? The like $2,000 between piano money. No. It was either, I want to say it was between Zalema and Melanie Boudreaux maybe. And then Melanie Gibb was going to expedite it or something, but she don't deal with PayPal or whatever.
Whose piano? Was it somebody was selling a piano?
Allegedly.
Or was it like the money's in the piano?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It could be to put out a hit, or it could be for whatever. It was in Melanie Gibbs' interview with Rexburg police. I do remember that much. So I'll have to go back and revisit that.
It's kind of like this other case that I'm investigating, the Jensen family from Sandy, Utah, where they smuggled $300 million of crude oil in from Mexico and paid the cartel for it.
I've never heard of this.
I'm going to do a whole thing. I'm just behind. It's coming. It's coming. But this guy wrote a check to a used car dealership for a Bentley Bentayga, and he wrote on the memo line of the check,
"Oh my God.
Vehicle for business purposes only."
And
how much was the check for?
It was like $175,000, and which is probably not enough for that vehicle anyway. I need to do a little more research, but anyway, I mean, it's like, this is totally not money laundering. Please don't look at this check. It's legit, you know. And it reminded me of Lori. Just because you say something is for business purposes doesn't mean that it is.
True. It's not relevant. It doesn't mean, just like whenever the Ballard and Ballard, right? M. Russell Ballard, there's an article written about him and Tim Ballard, and they're like, no relation. I'm like, bullshit. Show me. I bet you there is. Because it gets people to stop thinking and just take their word for it. I don't take their word for it because I don't trust either of them. You know, they're both crappy in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I'm looking.
Speculating and read some actual documents, shall we?
Yes.
We're going to bring receipts.
Yes.
All right. Hold on. Let me pull it back up.
Okay. I'm going to turn off the camera so I can eat, but I will come back on to comment.
Okay. And whenever I do turn mine off too, and I'll turn it back on, but I'm smoking a cigarette. So allegedly.
All right. I will allegedly be the only one on camera then reading this actual document that was posted
I bet
today.
you feel so alone.
No
You're
comment.
the pretty one, Joe.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not the pretty one. I'm not the smart one. I'm just the one reading the document.
I'll do it.
So it's dated May 25th, but it literally just came down like overnight. I don't know exactly when overnight because I slept overnight. It wasn't there when I checked last night, but it was there sometime this morning.
Okay.
Motion to disqualify judge.
Don't laugh.
In parentheses, the Honorable Judge Justin Bareski. So she's specifying which judge she wants to disqualify.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Yes.
I just have to acknowledge Jerry Vallow in the chat. And Jerry Vallow, this is being filmed live right now. Because he was asking.
We're going to get the bitch again.
That's right. We're going to get the bitch again.
Yeah, just start up a freaking tally, you know?
Right. Oh, yeah. This is going to be
a quick... Come up? You're welcome to come up if you ever want to, Uncle G.
And I know... And I know this is once again speculation, and Megan just said we're not going to speculate, but this is going to be a quick trial. This is going to be over by Friday the 13th. I guarantee you it's going to be over by then.
That's scary.
Anyway, all right. This is the motion that came down today from Lori. So it's not handwritten, which means that her paralegal participated in preparing this document. What level of participation she had, we don't know. But the defendant, Lori Daybell, files with this motion and her affidavit. So she's filing not just a motion, but an affidavit as required by 28 U.S.C.A. 144 to show that the Honorable Justin Bareski has a personal bias or prejudice against her. As a result, the defendant cannot receive a fair or impartial hearing or trial before this court.
She needs to shut up before he sentences her. I would just leave Judge B alone.
Right? He hasn't sentenced her yet for the first one. She's not making any friends with the Honorable Justin Bareski.
She's not smart.
So this is the affidavit. She files an affidavit with a motion, which doesn't make legal sense to me, but I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know what it means, but it just seems odd. Lori Daybell. Right. It's an extra layer of legalistic exercises because she's Lori. Yes.
She just wants to speak legal.
Lori Daybell, being first duly sworn. So did the person actually swear her in? Being first duly sworn.
I hope so.
Did this person actually swear her in? I wonder.
If she's filing an affidavit, she has to basically make that statement sworn in or in front of an officer of the court and have it, verified and signed by the witness that she said all of these things. So, Lori doesn't have much else better to do. And she's got, I don't know if you guys watched that little video that Justin Lum did where he visited the jail, the Estrella jail, and the guard that is helping watch over her commented that she has unlimited access to that video pad or whatever. So as long as her 2 advisory counselors, her special investigator, and her paralegal, as long as at least one of those are available, she can be on that thing all day if she wants to. So shut up with this. I'm incarcerated jail prison situation for 23 hours a day.
Right.
She said I'm locked down 23 hours a day.
She don't sleep, right? She's not supposed to.
My business.
Yep.
She's got plenty of time.
And she didn't even mention the portals that she has open to her. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, we are too lowly to understand her portals, so she's not going to throw her pearls before us swine.
We are less than exalted beings, and I will openly
We
admit
are
that
just
in
mere
court.
mortals.
She's still a translated bitch. That's what she is. Sorry.
The snark is strong tonight. I'm at my wit's end with this lady.
Yep.
Every time I'm like, okay, we don't have anything until jury selection, and then this crap comes out. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah. So she's, oh my God. Yeah. Snark away, because let's get it out of our system. That way we can kind of hit the ground running and not snark so much. Because I feel so damn cynical a lot lately, for sure.
I'm also just going to say thank you to my channel members and my subscribers and my watchers who are here. Please go subscribe to Joe Schmo's channel, and please go subscribe to Crush's. This is a joint effort. We support each other. We couldn't do it without each other.
Absolutely. Same for mine, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dizzy, if you're out there, you know what to drop in the chat. Thanks, Dizzy. Or Trace. All right, here we go. Let's put this back up. On May 14th, we got to go back up to the first paragraph. Mrs. Daybell. So in previous filings, she has been declared as Ms. Daybell. Like I know this for a fact. Now she's Mrs. Daybell. Had multiple motions for Judge Justin Bresky to recuse himself from her cases. He has refused to recuse, knowingly and willingly violating the Code of Judicial, say that 3 times fast, Judicial Conduct, Canon 1, 2, Code of Judicial Conduct. Dang it, you're going to challenge me again. Manifesting bias, prejudice, and cannot be impartial in the defendant's cases. On May 14th, this was the last hearing that we had, which was in courtroom 1104 in Judge Bresky's usual courtroom. The defendant's cases are in the worldwide. Oh gosh, she can't
get over herself, man.
Yeah, the defendant's cases are in the worldwide media networks. Right now, she's in the worldwide media networks right now. Hi, Lori. Are you watching us?
She has been since she freaking murdered her kids. Yeah. Woo. God. It's like
Judge Bresky refused to recuse himself. Indirect questioning by the defendant. The judge proceeded to breach his duties of the codes of judicial conduct, Canon 1, 2, by further commenting with opinions of the defendant's prior 2 groups of counsel, the defendant's advisory counsel, and the defendant's motions that he had denied without cause or decision to support his denial of request. A judge should have recused himself, not the judge, a judge should have recused himself related to the merits of their own ruling.
Speaking of merit,
yes.
Just saying. She has none. Remember?
But it doesn't apply to her, right?
Right.
The merit, having no merit doesn't apply to her. Like she has merit just based on the fact that she thinks she's pretty, she thinks she's smart, she thinks she knows about the law. So that gives her all the merit she needs. But Judge Bresky doesn't have any merit.
And nothing in this life counts for her. So doesn't count for me.
0 effects. It doesn't count for me. Yes. She is very short-sighted, huh?
In regard to the complaint of judicial misconduct 603 F3D 1060, a judge commits errors of laws in the process of reaching discretionary conclusions. On May 14th, on the May 14th court proceeding, Judge Bresky's behavior and judicial acts fall within the scope of bad faith. Ooh, she's going to mention bad faith.
Oh Lord, what does that mean in a legal context? Bad faith.
That's got a very layered meaning, and I'm not a legal expert, so I'm not going to weigh in on it. But
damn it, Joe.
It does.
It kind of starts out with ill intent.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. That's at least one layer of it.
Right.
She also thinks, according to that post-conviction interview, that Judge Bresky, she was surprised whenever Brianna, I think her name is Brianna, said that Judge Bresky was rather fair with her. And she was like, really? That was like news to her. So for all of us who think that he goes above and beyond, and he does. I think so. I'm biased, but I still think so. But I mean,
Right.
I don't know what
He said
world
he
he lives
did.
in.
He said he did to her in her
He
last
did.
motion. I have been overly
Accommodating or something.
Yeah, overly accommodating. Yes, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. And so you
Uh-huh.
either agree with that or you disagree with that. And everybody on the planet, except for Lori, agrees with that. That he has been
Right.
overly accommodating.
Yeah. She's I
But
feel so sorry for Uncle
The
Charles,
time that
man.
I saw, sorry,
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
the time that I saw her the most unhinged when expressing her feelings about this judge was on that Arizona family true crime interview when Brianna said, "The judge has been really fair with you." And she was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, really? Do you think he
Yeah.
has?" And
News.
you know, "How do you think that's going to go for me?" You know, she just lost it at that point.
And it's
So
like
she
it has to
clearly
do
has
with
a lot of
drag belt with this one. It seems like that really pissed her off
well, yeah, because
whenever she couldn't
what
bamboozle him.
matters yeah, because what matters to her more than anything else is her appearance in front of the jury and
I'm
the
like,
public.
maybe she's not wanting to escape, but maybe she's wanting to just pounce. I mean, it is a concern of public safety.
Yeah,
You know,
I suppose.
that's what I think.
Yeah, I
well,
mean, I don't know. I honestly just think it's vanity.
Yep.
She was so mad.
Yeah. Yeah, vanity plays a huge part in all of this. It's crazy. Like
And getting her way too. Yeah.
with Nancy Joe. I mean,
Yep.
did you just talk about me for the entire date? Don't flatter
Hell
yourself.
no. She was so good.
I got a comment from Nancy Joe on my
I
video about
know.
her. I was so excited.
You go, girl. Aunt Nancy. That's what
Yeah.
I'm calling.
What did she say?
Oh, she just said, you know, thank you for all of the, you know, kudos, and all my channel people were just so excited to have a video about her because she did such a great job of shutting Lori down. She said she's not doing any interviews, but she really appreciated all of the good thoughts for what she did.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. You go, Nancy Joe.
We need more Nancy
love
Joes.
Nancy Joe. We do. We need
me,
more
if-
Nancy Joes.
Yeah, if I believe if like she represents an LDS woman really well versus all the you know, the little seven gatherers and stuff, you know, I'm just like, I'm just saying.
She is a woman of substance.
Yes. Yes, there's depth in there.
And integrity.
Mm-hmm.
She is classy. Yep.
Yes, classy.
I want to be her when I grow up.
Me too. Can I be her when I grow up?
Yeah. Maybe no interviews, but we should go visit her.
I would love to send her 3 dozen roses and whatever her favorite treat is, and treat her to a spa day and all of that stuff. I just can't say enough good things.
You're gonna have to ask Lauren from Hidden True Crime because she got to spend an afternoon with her.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
I really appreciate what she did. And I mean, that had to have been a very aggravating spot to be in, you know, just because I remember reading in the report that she wasn't sure she even wanted to participate in this, you know.
Yeah.
But she did. And I'm so grateful for that. And I can see why my Uncle Charles, you know, went out on a date with her or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
There was a spark from the start.
Yeah.
I think that's what we can all gather from that. There was a spark between them from the start. And she wanted to know, Lori wanted to know about all these other women that were in his phone, but he also had appointments to go look at houses to rent while he was in town. So
with Joe Pongratz, I actually found a recommendation letter from Joe Pongratz and his wife from 2014 for Lori and Charles. I was like, oh my God. You know, I need to share that. Joe Pongratz thought highly of Uncle Charles for sure. Yeah. And I mean, if anything, he told Lori she had to leave, like she had to go.
Yeah.
And that kind of would have, I mean, I'm not saying it's his fault or anything, but that set Lori into motion, you know, when she was praying and trying to get her answer on whether to move to Rexburg or whether Chad was allegedly going to come down here. Yeah. It urged her that way, I'm sure.
I don't believe that she prayed about that. I believe she told God, God, I'm going to Rexburg.
Yes, you know it.
But related to this case, Melanie Pulowski, or Melanie Boudreau at the time, also did, right? She followed Lori up to Rexburg.
Not
right?
immediately. She didn't
Not
move up there
immediately.
technically until October 31st is when she signed the lease a few days earlier than, like, when she went up there she was there for September 26th, 27th, 28th, and 29th. Probably, in my opinion, allegedly, maybe conspiring. That's a good time to conspire. And then she came back to Arizona, but she did sign a lease prior to that, and she listed her children on there. But I mean, that's who Lori was talking about a lot of the times, about having a daughter going to BYU. She did look at her as a daughter.
Yeah.
And she said those are her grandkids. You know, basically, like, those are her grandkids. She always said she only had Riley at the time as a grandchild. But yet she was saying plural, you know, and we're just like, what? It's very, very
Again,
interesting.
just delusional. Just a big bag of cats up there. Can't make sense of it.
I'm so glad you got the good gene.
Well, you have to remember, I do not share any blood with Barry Cox. So there's that.
Amen. Okay, can we all just drop to our knees right now? Thank God. Holy shit.
Thank God I did not go to that family.
Yeah.
All right. Back to the document.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now we have to tab over till I find it.
Yeah.
Where am I going to find it? Find it. All right. There we go. Right. So we talked about bad faith acts, intentionally committed. So we're on line 7, 8. Judge knew or should have known that his actions were beyond a judge's lawful power and without lawful power of judge, but for corrupt purpose. Does anybody look at Judge B and say, dude, you have corrupt purpose? Anyway, she does, which includes
she should know better than to kill. But here we are. Here we are.
Corrupt purpose. She knows about corrupt purpose a little bit. Anyway, she cites a court case, line 14. The motions that the defendant's prior 2 legal counsel teams, the defendant and her current advisory counsel, have advised for the defendant to file for evidence and further motions of request are crucial to the defense preparation, witnesses, experts, evidence, proof of innocence. She's just like throwing a bunch of stuff out there. Cross-examination, rebuttals, and foundation to the defense, all of which Judge Bereski has deprived the defendant of access to the evidence.
Speaking all of which,
wow.
How about depriving all your victims of life? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, she's annoying.
That's a minor point. That's just a minor point. Judge Bereski crossed the line of neutrality when he misemployed. Ooh, there's a word. Misemployed. It's only 3 syllables. His powers when he assumed role.
Powers.
Using his judicial powers to advantage or disadvantage a party unfairly, thus giving impression that this court has opinion.
Hey, I was misemployed once.
Did you get to draw misemployment? I don't think so. Oh my gosh, she is cuckoo. Certified.
Well, and some of her sentences are not grammatically correct. Like, I want to correct them in mid-sentence.
I have no room to talk.
And thus giving the impression this court has opinion, that is not a complete sentence. Like, there should be a semicolon right there. Anyway, I have OCD about that. I digress. Yes.
Well, the thing that frustrates me about that is not that I'm trying to be nitpicky about, grammar and spelling and punctuation and everything, but it's so hard to understand what she's actually trying to say because she's using word salad. She's using bad arguments. And the fact that she doesn't use correct grammar also leaves us wondering what in the world she's actually saying or asking for.
And because she's a murderer. I mean, so I'm just, she gets on my nerves. So she's snark bait all the time.
So you have a narcissistic murderer representing herself that thinks she knows more about the law than she actually knows.
More than the judge.
And doesn't put proper grammar on the page of the motions that she's filing. It's like a quintuple of bad horribleness. I don't even know how to describe it. Like, all right. Let's look at line 2 on the next page. The facial expressions, attitude, demeanor, and statement deprive the defendant of a fair and impartial hearing. ER 8.4 violation in conduct that is prejudicial to the administration of justice. So she's accusing him. She's accusing Judge Bareski of having improper facial expressions, attitude, demeanor, and statement. Wow. Wow.
I mean, he did do this. He did go. And I was like, yes. I mean,
but for the most part, he really is, we've said this before, the definition of gray rock. He does not really show emotion or expression. And even when he was saying, she says, I ask you recuse yourself for your obvious personal bias. And he goes, what personal bias is that? Like zero change in expression. And then he said, I don't have a personal bias. Okay. That's it. Like there was not a single kick in his blood pressure. No, I'm denying emotion.
There were a couple of times when he raised his voice just a little bit to match her raised voice, but he immediately backed off of those. He's like, all right, I know this is wrong. I shouldn't be doing this. So, all right, are you done?
I guarantee you all of this is because of the 2 are you dones.
Yep.
Yep. Yes, Your Honor. Her cute, sweet, pray and obey voice went bye-bye. Yeah. Yes, Your Honor. I mean, that's weird.
Yep.
It
was the biggest sigh I've ever heard. And I raised 6 kids.
Right? There you go.
You have a high bar. Like she has a high bar to meet right there.
True.
With that. Line 7. On May 14th, this was the last hearing. Judge Bareski refused to apply or understand the direct guidelines of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office.
Oh, Lord.
Office's own attorney, Maricopa County Attorney's Office civil attorney, Joseph Vigil, on March 20th.
There, right?
I don't know if Joseph Vigil was the guy that was there, but there was a representative of the MCSO there on the 14th.
Yes, that was him.
That was him? Okay.
Yeah, and this is all about the rack belt. She's super mad about that.
It is. It's got to be.
On March 20th, Maricopa County Sheriff's Office responds to remove restraints during trial on page 3. Without any restraints in the courtroom, MCSO would recommend an unarmed detention officer and an armed sheriff's deputy in the courtroom. The belt is visible on the defendant and it has fallen off of the defendant in prior trial proceedings. The motion was denied by Judge Bareski. She didn't like the fact that it was hanging out. So when she called for that break, I thought she had to go to the bathroom.
I did too.
Like, yeah. She's like, Judge, we need to have a quick break. And he's like, okay, we can go. But apparently that was because, go ahead.
Well, I just was going to comment on that because probably what you were about to say, I didn't notice anything amiss with the rack belt at that point. I can tell that she has it on because she's wearing that jacket that kind of comes in fitted a little bit just above her waist. And then there's a little bit of a ruffle around it.
Yeah.
And so I can tell that it's there because there's a little bulk underneath the back of that. But, most people I've talked to have said that they don't notice it at all. And I didn't notice anything amiss when she asked for that little break. But apparently, according to the judge, there was an incident where the rack belt was hanging down. She had to go adjust her foundation undergarments or whatever. And
Sorry.
and then she complained to the judge, and she said that the jury obviously knew, or the jury wasn't asked if they didn't know. And
Why
Judge
won't they
Bareski,
know?
without
Yeah.
missing beat, said, no, they weren't asked. Nobody asked to poll the jury.
Nobody polled the jury.
In other words, that would have been your job, Lori, to ask the jury to be polled on that particular issue. Now, he probably would have denied that request too, but
I mean, still, he was boom, boom, right there with it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He said, and did anybody ask if they were polled, if the jury was polled? And of course, nobody was. So
no.
Yeah. So we'll never know. All right.
Somebody's asking in the chat, somebody was asking if she shows the rack belt, can she cause a mistrial? I don't think that that's possible. I don't think that would cause a mistrial. I don't think the defendant's own actions can cause a mistrial. I could be wrong about that. Again, not attorneys,
but maybe I wonder if she'd get reprimanded for it, or like, would it? I mean, if it was purposeful, like on purpose, and it makes me wonder, like, is she gonna nut up? Because, like you said in your video, I don't know which one, but about her mask is fully off, and I'm just like, oh, I'm a little like not nervous, but I'm just like, oh, what are we gonna see? Because I want this to go well, because I want it over, but what are we gonna see? Who are we gonna see?
Well, I have to admit that I was stunned and shocked watching that final trial management conference. My jaw was literally on the floor the entire time, and I could not believe what was coming out of her mouth. The audacity of this woman to ask the judge to recuse himself. And so I just think we're going to see more of the same. I think she's escalating, and she's escalating because it gets harder and harder for her to keep that crazy under wraps, because that's who she actually is. And you can only bite your tongue for so long, until the taste of blood gets to you and you got to say something. So I think that's what we're seeing happen out here.
Wow.
But I don't think she has the balls to change anything up from the last trial. Like, she's not going to testify for herself. She's not going to have any evidence. She's not going to have any witnesses. Once Trina K rests, that's the end of the trial. Like,
it's everybody else's fault.
Yeah. And Trina K said she's resting on June 9th. Monday, June 9th, Trina K will be done.
Which is poetic, because that's the day the kids were found. It's just one of those dates,
Yeah. I honestly, Joe, I wish I could agree with you on that she's not going to change anything. I honestly think that she has learned some things since the last trial. And I do think that I think she might try to mount a defense this time. I could be wrong, and she could just totally give up again and say, well, they haven't made their burden, and so I don't have to present any evidence. I'm entitled to that.
Right.
That would be right on MO for Lori. But I do think that there's a certain aspect to her personality that wants to prove herself better than she was the last time. And I think she's taking a lot of her cues from the interviews that she did and from what people are saying about her in the media. And I think she kind of thinks to herself, oh yeah, you think that I'm not capable of blah, blah, blah. You think I'm a terrible lawyer? Well, watch this, hold my beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I like that comment.
Hold my Diet Coke.
No, that breaks the word of wisdom too. You're not supposed to have caffeine at all.
Caffeine is not in the word of wisdom, Joe. I'm sorry. It's just not. It's just people assume that it is.
That blew my mind. Okay, because I was just beginning to learn about Mormonism, and Brandon came to Lake Charles, and he was hooking up a security system for my parents. I was like, okay, good, yay. But so I was outside, I was handing him a drill, it's just and I was just like, are you sure you're not from here? You sure you're not a Boudreaux from Louisiana, dude? Anyways, and he was just stocking away his Red Bull, and I was just like, I don't understand. Then, like, all the detectives were all drinking all their energy. I was like, what the hell's really going on? They started growing full beards. It was just crazy. It was like inversion time or something.
Yeah.
And I was very confused. But the coffee it's more about the hot, right? Isn't it about the warm?
So specifically named in the Word of Wisdom are coffee, tea, tobacco, alcohol, and harmful drugs. However, what a lot of people don't know that also named in the Word of Wisdom is to not eat fruit or vegetables out of their season and to eat meat sparingly. So I've talked about this before on my Mormonism 101 videos. Like, I guarantee you that nobody's going into their bishop going, I feel so terrible. I ate some strawberries in January. Like, nobody's doing that. But drink one cup of coffee and you can't go to your daughter's wedding.
It's basically like, I just thought about it. It's like Lent for Catholics, but all year round.
But all the time. It's always Lent.
Oh, wow. I mean, kudos if that's what you know what I mean. But it's very interesting how that's, I don't know. Like I said, it's like they think no caffeine, or it's kind of like we're given that impression a lot of the times. A lot of people think that.
I think people assume that it's no caffeine because it specifically mentions tea and coffee. And they assume the reason it mentions tea and coffee is because of the caffeine. And so growing up, like, Mormons are the reason they invented caffeine-free Diet Coke. Like, why the hell else would you drink
Pepsi or Coca-Cola or one of those companies, or didn't they?
I think they have a large amount of stock in PepsiCo.
Did you know that M. Russell Ballard had come up, or he was either an investor in it or something along those lines, of some kind of like soda machine that would make sodas like at the drive-in theater, like in your car. I'll have to go back and to Lynn Packer's channel and look at that again. But I was like, okay.
But all of that to say, I mean, I wasn't allowed to drink caffeinated sodas growing up, but there was definitely like a loosening of the regulations, because once my parents moved back to Texas, it was Dr. Pepper all the time. My dad loves Dr. Pepper. So, that all, and that's actually, I didn't realize it until I think I was like 32 years old teaching gospel doctrine. And I was like, it doesn't actually say anything about caffeine. That's weird,
Okay.
So that's all. But it also, the spirit of that law is like all things in moderation. And,
there you go.
Utah has an obesity problem. And I saw this in the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives the other day. They're all going to Swig, getting these 32-ounce sodas with 14 pumps of different sugared flavors in them, and they're drinking 2 or 3 of them a week. I have always said that sugar is the alcohol of the Mormon world, because there's bakeries all over the place and treats and sweets everywhere. It's like, well, we can't drink alcohol, so we might as well get diabetes.
That makes me think of Nancy Joe again. Isn't she like a cake decorator or something?
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't
it has
know
something to do with culinary arts. Yeah. She's a caterer, maybe.
Hey, right.
All right, Megan, when do you have to leave us so we can?
Oh, I'm good. I'm not until an hour and a half from now. So we're good.
But should we keep going through the document?
Yes, we should keep going through the document. Let's soldier on.
We all get sucked down these rabbit holes, and I'm like so fascinated.
Oh, conversations.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
That's why I love this, though. It's like the difference of our 3 experiences.
We do have 3 different experiences, and they all have different insights into what's going on here. But thanks everybody for joining us. We're up over 1,000 people watching right now. That's pretty
cool.
Very cool.
Button, y'all.
Yeah, please make sure you sub to these other 2 channels.
If you do, then Lori will now be.
You know what? Every time we have a live stream and this many people show up, Lori loses.
Yeah,
because it's all of us exposing her, and she would hate it so much. She would be livid if she knew about my channel.
That's good manipulation, Megan. But it's true. It's true.
Yeah, I think Kresha was about to write a check that her body can't cash.
No, I'm
if y'all hit the like button.
every time, I mean, just like every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. I mean, it's something along those lines, but I'll have to come up with it. I'll work on that right now.
All right. And I'll work on reading this.
Oh man, don't you wish
if you don't feel like it?
Don't you wish that we could promise that Lori would get zapped if we all got a certain number of subs?
If we could raffle that sucker off, can you imagine?
All right. We're never going to get through this.
We would be in the 6 digits of donations if we could raffle off that rack belt.
But I digress. Control. I'm sorry. They said every time you sub, someone from the church of the firstborn gets a flat tire.
Yeah.
Just saying.
All right.
I love rabbit holes.
All right. Line 17. Under the 6th Amendment, jurors' glimpses of defendant in restraints can rise to a level of due process violations. A person subjects another to the deprivation of a constitutional right within the meaning of Section 42 U.S.C.A. 1983 if he or she does an affirmative act, participate in another affirmative act, or omits to perform act, which she is legally required that causes deprivation.
I'm lost in the sauce way back here somewhere. I'm like, what? What is she even talking about anymore?
I don't even know. Anyone causing...
Can I read this for myself for a second? Because I'm absolutely flummoxed.
I'm going to smoke.
Yes.
Under the 6th Amendment, jurors' glimpses of defendant in restraints can rise to a level of due process violations. A person subjects another to the deprivation of a constitutional right within the meaning of Section 42 whatever if he or she does an affirmative act. What is an affirmative act?
Isn't that good? Like, if you, like, I don't know. It sounds like nice. It sounds like some kind of experiment.
Okay, but let's say that does mean something. Maybe she means an act that's true or an act that goes along with this or whatever. Favorable. I don't know. So let's just kind of skip over that part and I'll reread it. A person subjects another to the deprivation of a constitutional right within the meaning of the section of law if he or she participates in another affirmative act or omits to perform act which he, she, or is legally required that causes deprivation. Anyone causing any sin to be subject to a constitutional deprivation is also liable. Nope. Sorry. I tried. I cannot make sense of that at all.
Stick it in the AI.
So okay, let's rewind. Under the 6th Amendment, these are, the rights of the incarcerated, right? Glimpses of the defendant in the restraints can rise to a level of due process violations. Full stop. I get it so far. If somebody glimpses the defendant in restraints, that could be a violation of due process. Mm-hmm. So let me see if I can figure out who she's talking about when she says a person.
Carl.
So let's say that she says the court. The court subjects Lori Daybell to the deprivation of a constitutional right within the meaning of this law if the court does an affirmative act. Okay, so if the court allows the rack belt to be seen, maybe that's what she's talking about, or if the court makes her wear a rack belt against her will or whatever. If the court participates in another affirmative act or fails to perform an act which the court is legally required to perform that causes the deprivation. And let's just put a period there. And then say anyone causing Lori Daybell to be subjected to a constitutional deprivation is also liable. So let's just put this in the mind of Lori for a second. Let's run this through Lori GPT.
All right.
She's complaining about the fact that the jury saw the rack belt. So I think what she's saying here is the court made me wear a rack belt. The rack belt could be seen. Nobody in the court came to my defense and said, "Oh, Lori, your rack belt is showing." They let her go and tuck it under or whatever she had to do.
That's her crazy.
And so I think what she's saying here is like, kind of like Barry did when he was like, I'm suing you, I'm suing you, I'm suing you, I'm suing you. She's like, the court's responsible, the prosecution's responsible, the bailiffs are responsible, the MCSO is responsible. Everybody else is responsible because you made me wear this thing and I didn't want to wear it and I shouldn't have to wear it because I don't need to. And because you made me wear it, it's a violation of my due process rights.
That's and zero effects on me. Doesn't count for me.
Right.
Kind of plays into that too.
Okay, so that's the second sentence.
God.
And then the requisite casual connection. Would you say nonchalant, Lori?
Yeah.
The requisite casual connection can be established by a series of acts by which the actor inflicted the constitutional injuries and abuse of discretion. So and this is where it all comes down to at the end. Judge Boreski's denial of both MCSO's and Maricopa County Attorney's Office Civil Attorney Mr. Vigil's recommendations and the defendant's motion for removal of restraint belt. The defendant is pro per filed May. Okay, so scroll back up for a second. So what all she's saying here is that Judge Boreski denied. She's under this delusion that the sheriff's office said she doesn't have to wear a rack belt. When in reality, Judge Boreski already clarified for this. He said that what they recommended is that she either have a rack belt and additional guards or just a rack belt. Lori misinterpreted that on purpose in her favor.
Yes.
And now she's citing that misinterpretation again in this situation to say,
to justify her rights being violated.
Yeah, to say, Judge Boreski made me do this thing and he ignored the recommendation of MCSO and therefore blah, 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 whatever is how she would put it, I think, word for word.
That's a good breakdown, girl. I mean,
just
really.
Trying to make sense of crazy crap. I just, I have spent a lot of time, unfortunately, corresponding and communicating with dysfunctional people. So what I always try to do is I try to put myself in their position and realize that, number one, Lori is very black and white. You're either for me or against me. And she also has a victim persecution complex. And so if we look at things from that point of view, then we can understand the point she's trying to make. That doesn't mean we agree with it. It doesn't mean it's a valid point. But at least we can try to make sense of the word salad a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. And here is that court order from March applying to both trials, the 2021 and 2022 cases.
There you go.
Yeah. So are you going to go through it or?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So the judge grants in part and denies in part the defendant's motion to have removed restraints. The defendant shall not wear any visible shackles and or handcuffs in the courtroom during jury selection and trial when the jury is present. Handcuffs may be used during prolonged breaks in the courtroom, which we never saw that happen.
Nope.
And when the defendant is being transported to and from the courtroom. The sheriff's office will be permitted the use of the rack vest and one unarmed detention officer present near defense counsel's table. And we saw that throughout the entire trial. There was an officer sitting there who was not armed. Because the defendant is representing herself and will have some limited latitude to move about the well of the courtroom, a leg brace will not be required. However, at the sheriff's discretion, one or more armed sheriff deputies may be positioned near the exits at the rear of the courtroom for the duration of jury selection and trial presentation. And we did see that. Did we not, Joe? Were there not armed guards at the back door?
Yep. But that contradicts her opinion that if there's an armed guard, there doesn't have to be a rack belt. This says nothing about that. There's nothing in this about not having to wear the rack belt.
Again, she's misinterpreting in her favor.
Right.
So
she never does that. She never does that.
So out of character.
Yeah.
Something else, yeah.
So just going back to, the new filing here, she's basically asserting that she doesn't have to wear a rack belt. She's trying to assert that the sheriff's office said you don't have to have a rack belt. She wants to think it's either or, armed guards or a rack belt, but it's not. It's both. It's either just the rack belt or the rack belt and the armed guards. Turns out they chose option B.
Right. It worked.
And she's trying to say that that's a violation of her rights. And it's not. It's just not under any legal definition whatsoever.
It's not relevant.
The state has a right, and the court has a right, and the sheriff's office has a right to demand safety in the courtroom and to restrain a convicted murderer.
Yep.
The end.
Yeah.
This kind of reminds me in Toy Story when Buzz Lightyear kind of goes off the deep end and he's having a tea party and he's convinced that he's Mrs. Nesbit. and Woody has to come in here and say, "You are a toy."
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, Lori, you are a convicted killer.
Right. You put yourself here like nobody did. Yes. Yeah. Has not gotten the memo.
No.
At all. And I mean, it's like she'll never be on her way to hitting reality at this rate, at this pace here.
No, she can't. She can't.
No. So what are the odds that she files some other type of motion on the case, the Charles Vallow case, where she was just convicted and she filed a motion for a new trial, and judge just came down, denying her motion for a new trial on all 5 counts, like he addressed all 5 of those issues. Like, is she going to file something else in that?
Well, I think her only option at this point is an appeal. I don't think she can file anything else.
Okay.
Because it's done. It's over and done with. Now, she has not been sentenced yet, obviously, but I think all she can do at this point is file an appeal, and I'm sure she will. I'm sure that she will try to drag this out as long as she possibly can. She doesn't have anything better to do. Right. It gets boring playing sock puppets all day.
And an advocate for all those ladies.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, she's really busy teaching jazzercise and,
the prison dentist
giving life coaching to the other death row inmates.
Oh my God.
Lori, the life coach.
I guess if you're in Australia, you might look to her for life coaching skills, for life coaching advice, but I wouldn't personally if it was me.
No, sir.
Well, I mean, you have to probably understand that the majority of people who are in there probably think they're innocent as well.
Right.
And so they probably do. Some of them look to Lori as a role model because look, she's gotten 3 interviews with media since she's been in the Estrella jail.
Not hard to do when you're just a crazy bee.
She gets to represent herself, which means that she gets to meet with her people and, pretend to be a lawyer, which is probably looks really exciting to the rest of the ladies who are just in there without any of that. So,
and she's got her dad in her. So
100%. I've seen it go by in the chat several times. I absolutely believe that Barry is helping her with her stuff. And I think that's one of the reasons she wanted him to testify, because I think she wanted him to come up there and kind of justify some of these motions that have been denied or something. I don't know, like in her brain. Yeah. And I bet you anything, that upon cross-examination, Trina K would have said, "Mr. Cox, can you tell us about your relationship with Lori?" And he would have said, "She thinks I'm a spiritual giant."
Yes. Yes, Dad, you're a spiritual giant. I'll never forget that. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Anyway, shall we?
It's a pattern.
No, go ahead.
Oh, it's a pattern too, from Barry to Alex to Lori, that they have like this revenge, this grudge, and it's long lasting. It shows in every one of them.
Yeah.
So Barry's is the IRS. Alex was Joe, or anybody that had a problem with, or that Lori had a problem with.
Yeah.
Lori is just, yeah. I mean, and they plot. It's
yeah,
very
and
calculated.
it is calculated, and I don't think that it's necessarily like, yes, we can clearly see that they had their vendettas against certain people, but I think in reality, all it is an inferiority complex and a vendetta against anybody who dares to question them or who dares to not give them their way. You know, it's like, you can just, it's just so obviously apparent when, you know, you feel wronged by the IRS. And so you turn around and sue the IRS, the Secretary of State. You know, why not just add the president, you know?
Right. Oh my gosh.
So
it's apparent.
So Megan, so you had experience growing up with her in your younger days.
Yeah.
And it seems like her defense right now is an extension of her life up to now, which is, I'm pretty, so you should give me what I want. Like,
yeah, I love the behavior panel. And one of the guys on the behavior panel says that, oh no, please turn it off. Sorry, my soup is still simmering. Sorry, one of the guys on the behavior panel says that the organism will do what has worked for the organism in the past. And this is the pattern that we've seen with Lori, where she is pretty and charming and she expects that her charms are going to work every time. And, you know, ever since 2019, we've kind of seen this pattern of law enforcement and court officers and other people who have not fallen for her charms. And she's like, wait a second, what's wrong with this thing? Why isn't it working? You know, and she's just angry that it's not working. And she doesn't know any other way to operate. That's the problem. She only has one trick in her bag of tricks. She only knows how to turn a trick one way. You know, she's got one position. Sorry, I need to stop. But it really just is like, she doesn't know another way to relate to people, but to try and manipulate them with her looks and her charm. And when it doesn't work, she short circuits. Yeah, she doesn't know what else to do.
Get the yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, it's just like whenever she was incarcerated in Madison County, and I want to say Colby Bryant had died around that time, and COVID was happening, and she allegedly, in front of another cellmate, ran her finger from the bottom, like where her ankles, I guess, all the way up, and she's like, "Let's see if this is worth $1 million." And she was like bragging because there's Colby Bryant, there's COVID, and then they're all talking about me. That's what it was about.
And because she was trying to make bail.
And she did not. So it's not worth $1 million.
Well, not only could they not raise bail for her, there was not a bondsman in the state that would take that bet. Not a single one.
No.
So even if they could have come up with the money, she wouldn't have been able to make bail.
Yep. Can you see her? Let's say she did. Let's say, let's just pretend for a minute. Can you see her living in the cozy cone? You know, like.
No. And from what, like, there's a vague, distant recollection that they were trying to get a cement pad. Approved so they could do a mobile home so she could live in an Airstream on Chad's property. I mean,
no,
honestly, Chad is lucky that Lori got arrested because she would have discarded him too.
Oh yeah,
she would have got tired of him too.
I just sit there and wait on a divorce filing, although it's against their religion.
I don't think Chad will file divorce.
Right.
I don't, because Lori's everything that he ever wanted. So
he's out of his league. In guy terminology, he's like over his head. Like she's
I mean, not that I don't think she's pretty now. I mean, she was at one point. Yes, I thought she was pretty.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That's before she showed her real the mask came off, so to speak. And ooh, she is ugly. Very ugly.
Yep. She has an ugly soul. Anyway, don't we have more documents to read?
We do. Yes, we do. Let's see. We're on page 5 out of 9. We can do it.
Let's step it up, people. Come on. We only have an hour left.
Line 5. On May 14th, 2025, which was the last hearing, the last pretrial hearing, Judge Boreski denied the defendant's motion to dismiss for abuse of discretion by Justin Boreski, filed on April 26th for violation of Speedy Trial Act under 18 U.S.C.A. 3161, resulted in miscarriage of justice, failure to make prescribed findings to justify ends of justice. Continuance cannot be excused as harmless error under the Speedy Trial Act. A end of justice must be filed, therefore, violation of Rule 15.7 due process and 3161H7. It's still worded awkwardly. Like, is he just sending her like these little blurbs and she's throwing them into a document? Like, it's worded so awkwardly.
Yeah. And people have asked, are they helping her with this? I think they can help her with citing case law. I think that they can help her by saying, that legal argument isn't going to work here, or you should try this there. But I don't think that they're really allowed to reword, especially if she insists that they do it that way. So are we on the paragraph that starts the Sixth Amendment?
Yes.
Okay. The Sixth Amendment right to speedy trial. Congress enacted the Speedy Trial Act, which criminal trials must commence. Well, which defines when criminal trials must commence. Under 18 U.S.C.A., the Speedy Trial Act and case law are silent as to what a non-statutory factor district court should generally consider. A court abuses its discretion when it fails to consider all factors relevant to the choice and the factors it did rely on were unsupported by facts. Okay, so I think she's just missing some commas here. I think that's all it is. So a court abuses its discretion when it fails to consider all factors relevant to the choice, comma, and the factors it did rely on were unsupported by facts under 16 ARS, denial of speedy trial. If the rules have been violated, the court must dismiss the prosecution with or without prejudice. Violating the speedy trial rule does violate the spirit of the rule and the fact that the defendant is deprived of due process. There's an incomplete thought. Violating the speedy trial rule does violate the spirit of the rule. And maybe she meant to say, and the fact is the defendant is deprived of due process or something like that. So I think she's just trying to say speedy trial rights were violated. And if you go back up a little bit, she's trying to cite that the case law is silent as to what non-statutory or non-law factor the district court should generally consider. And I think what she's meaning to say is like the different factors for excluding time. That Judge Boreski was always saying, I'm going to exclude some time for this reason or that reason. And I think Lori's just taking issue with the fact that he excluded time for her mental health evaluation and all of that stuff.
Well, and for the fact that she had another trial going on. That was the main factor.
Right.
Like we can't count your time for a speedy trial if you don't want to combine the trials and have the two trials go on at the same time. Then we have to exclude the time for your other trial that's going on before this trial that's coming up.
Right. Exactly. I love this. What Don Starkman says, there's a saying, you can't suck and whistle at the same time. He basically said she couldn't bring in her expert and still have her speedy trial.
No, that was literally debated in one of her pretrial motions before the last trial. And
Yep.
Judge Bareski said, if you want Lonnie Dworkin to come in, we can let him in, but you're going to have to file for a continuance. And she said, nope, I'm not filing for a continuance.
She's like, nope, not gonna waive my right to a speedy trial. So that is what is called, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You made your bed and you need to lie in it. Liar, Lori.
All right. So I think we're down to line 5 now. The speedy trial clock has exceeded the maximum days. The act is violated. The act is violated. I have been violated. Can you see her, hear her saying that? I can. The act is violated. Thus, the case should.
I just wanted to let Miss Mojo know that I see you. Thank you for that.
Oh, nice. Mojo Rising. I like it. That's a cool name.
So Lori should definitely have restraints and armed guards and.
Right. and my followers have started a bail fund for me that they would be willing to post bail for me if I jump over the wall and lay hands on her at some point during this trial.
You know, it would only be worth it for me if I knew who had the remote control and I could get my hands on it.
They
could raise a lot of money.
What about the frequencies, Joe? I had myself muted, but what about the frequencies? Have you checked into it?
Do we know anyone at the end? I'm just kidding. It's a joke. I'm just
hackers out there.
Although I do really appreciate what Colby said when he said, you know, I did the calculation. I spotted where the guards were and I calculated how far I could jump over. He said, nah, it wasn't worth it.
Did Colby say that for real?
I think well, maybe I'm telling tales out of school. He may have said it in the family room after court was over. I thought he said it on an interview, so my apologies.
Either way, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they've raised enough money in my bail fund for me to like contemplate it yet. They'd like need to kick in a little more.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if she was in Idaho, maybe I'd risk it, but I don't want to risk being in Estrella jail.
Oh no.
Well,
we
can find out like that. Okay, she cannot. Mm-hmm. Catch me
all right.
Catch me outside.
How about that? Anyways.
Line 5, the speedy trial clock has exceeded the maximum days. The act is violated. Thus, the case should be dismissed. Dismissal without prejudice is not a toothless sanction for a speedy trial act violation.
What about the damn doomsday clock, Hooker? I mean, what happened to that mission? We aborted that mission, right? And now this is like mission justice for Lori or something. Mm-hmm.
Mission speedy trial clock.
How about this, Lori? You're going to be toothless by the time you get out of jail.
Yeah.
Well, she won't ever. So there's that.
And I mean, did she adhere to the word of wisdom to ensure that she'll live a long life in prison? I mean, that sucks. Just
the court failed to request findings to justify ends of justice continuance. Ends of justice continuance. That's a weird phrase. Like I need to research that. Is that I don't know. Thus violating Speedy Trial Act, warranting she has periods here instead of commas. or semicolons or something.
You know, maybe she was using talk to text. I'm kidding.
I'm like, what? I'm trying to picture
it. But talk to text is always putting periods in my texts when I don't want them there.
Right. I just say Lori is a period. She's just a big, long, raging period. Anyways, all right.
Oh, man.
I need to mute myself.
Warranting dismissal based on court violations, 18 U.S.C.A. 3162A2. The Speedy Trial Act impasses strict specificity requirements. She's getting this from somewhere. And if she's in jail and not prison, she probably doesn't have access to a law library. So somebody is sending this to her if she doesn't have access to a law library. Anyway.
That would be interesting.
Barry L. Cox.
The district court
failed this in his voice.
Yes, right. Yeah. Sovereign citizen, right? The district court fails to comply with them. 18 U.S.C.A. 3161 H8 H8A H81 181F 3D 1057. I'm only reading these because the fact that these are so explicitly displayed tells me they're coming from somewhere. 181F 3D.
Her attorneys or her
advisory council.
I'm trying to think, or her paralegal would be the one who would actually put the case law in there. But as far as what case law she should cite, that's probably either coming from advisory council or from outside help.
Right. Exactly. U.S. versus Lloyd 125F 3D 1263 1997. No continuance period may be excluded from speedy trial computation. A continuance period is not excludable. Oh, this is an interesting argument. This may be her best argument.
This might, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
A continuance period is not excludable from speedy trial calculations. The trial court's failure to set forth in the record its reasons for findings. Okay, Judge Bresky did not fail to set forth in the record his reasons.
No, he didn't.
By granting a continuance violates 18 U.S.C.A. 3161 3174 H8A. The indictment time period violates the Speedy Trial Act. The defendant's conviction would be reversed and the cause of remanded.
Nope.
For dismissal of indictment. What? U.S. versus Perez Revelis 715 F2D 1348 1982. That didn't make sense.
I think there's just an extra of in there because it makes sense to say the defendant's conviction would be reversed and the cause remanded for dismissal of indictment.
Okay, gotcha. Who put the of in there though? Like who did that? I want to know who's responsible for that of.
Probably her. That's probably her paralegal who's typing it up. And not only that, but Lori should have reviewed this before she signed it and sent it in. But as we know, she just signs a stack of stuff and she doesn't know what she's doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Like subpoenas to people
right.
who should not be subpoenaed. Yeah.
Yep.
How many people think that she sent those on purpose? Right. I do.
Me.
She's.
I can't raise my hand on camera too much because it will tell me that it can't track my face anymore. See how I move to the left.
Oh yeah.
and I move to the right. If I put my hand up, it'll stop tracking my face.
Oh my gosh.
This new technology.
Anyways.
I never could do the Macarena like in the.
Oh, come on, Joe.
I couldn't.
Come on. Oh my gosh.
All right. So Lori says at the top of page 7, this was a malicious act by Judge Boreski to the defendant, manifesting discrimination and religious prosecution, not religious persecution, religious prosecution against Mrs. Daybell's religious exercise, beliefs, and practices under USCA Constitutional Amendment 1st and 5th due process.
That's your cousin, Megan. Good Lord.
The comments compound the prejudice of an erroneous misunderstanding for the purpose of fundamental error. What? She did not write this. She did not write this. She's getting this from somewhere. The comments compound the prejudice of an erroneous misunderstanding for the purpose of fundamental error. She didn't write that. Like, there's no way. But anyway, the defendant
Let me try
only
a different voice.
Okay. Yeah, please do. Please.
The comments compound the prejudice of an erroneous misunderstanding for the purpose of fundamental error. The defendant only needs to establish one prong to prove fundamental error. A judge who engages in improper behavior while on the bench is sanctions imposed, unprofessional conduct, violates duties and obligations of members.
Ooh,
girl. In the name of Barry Cox, amen.
That's good. You're good.
Oh my!
That's the only way it makes sense to me, is to read it in Barry's voice, because that sounds like something he would say.
Like we need Christopher Walken, you know.
Oh man!
Is sanctions imposed? That's not a proper grammar construction. Is sanctions imposed? So I'm looking at line 8, above line 8 and below line 8. A judge who engages in improper behavior while on the bench, is sanctions imposed? What kind of sense does that make?
Doesn't. I don't know. I don't even know what to substitute there to make it make sense.
Should have sanctions imposed, maybe. Should have sanctions imposed.
Or deserves, or needs, or...
Yes, right. All right. Line 11, under
should
SCR
have
rule.
Sanctions imposed. I don't know.
Yeah. Under SCR rule 4.090, disqualification 1, grounds a judge must recuse himself from any proceeding.
Grounds, a judge must recuse himself from any proceeding.
Right. Thank you. You have the same OCD I do.
Yeah.
While a judge expressed an opinion concerning merits of the proceeding, or in which the judge has a personal bias against a party regarding Allred 2012 case.
All right.
So you're telling me that you didn't come into this case having a personal bias against one single person?
Yeah. One single person. She sure does wreck a lot.
I don't think she has access to AI. AI would sound better than this.
Yes. Chat GPT, can you help Lori?
Maybe we should upload this into Chat GPT and say that, an amateur law student wrote this and we need it to be corrected so it makes sense. Please help.
I ask it, like, analyze this personality disorder for me, please. And it's pretty interesting how it comes out.
Yeah.
Just see Monty Plowski stuff. Holy crap.
So also, if we go to line 17, I think that work. You know what? Also, maybe the other thing is she's handwriting these motions and the paralegal's having to type them up and she can't read the writing. So I think that's supposed to say, while judicial decree does not justify public comment by a judge related to matter which is outside of context of official proceeding. Nope, that still doesn't make sense. Sorry.
Yeah. That's not a grammatical sentence in any way.
Why did we start a sentence with?
Yeah.
With. So maybe we just take that word out and say judicial decree does not justify public comment by a judge related to a matter which is outside of the context of an official proceeding. Like she's just missing some critical conjunctions.
Right. That makes sense.
Conjunction,
Why
junction.
why are
What's your
why are we having to interpret her grammar and get in
I'm
her
bored.
head? I don't want to be in her head like at all.
No, I don't either. It's a scary place to be. Is there, how much more of this is there? I'm sorry.
We're
I'm really
almost there.
curious about
I've already
Trina's.
dissociated a long time ago. It's like,
Code of Judicial Conduct, Canon 123, Subdivision A6. A judge's public comment, risk of appearing the judge impartiality. What the? I can't even get through one sentence of hers without it not making sense. A judge's public
comment runs the risk of the judge appearing in. Okay, I get what she's trying to say. Judge's public comment carries the risk of the judge appearing, and impartiality is the wrong word, prejudiced. His objectivity is compromised in violation of blah, blah, blah. Comment is order for dismissal.
allegedly.
I'm the defendant in the above entitled case. I am informed and believe, and based on that information and belief, allege that the Honorable, and we go to capital and bold, the Honorable Justin Bresky, the judge before whom this cause is pending, has personal bias against the defendant Lori Daybell in favor of the state. A judge who manifests bias or prejudice in a proceeding impairs the fairness of the proceeding and brings the judiciary into disrepute. Facial expressions, attitude, demeanor, and statements deprive the defendant of a fair and impartial hearing. Misconduct, blah, 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 bias or prejudice of judge. A judge shall not preside once avid. A judge, okay, here's true. Here's why she filed an affidavit, because she says a judge shall not preside once the affidavit is filed.
Yes,
that's why she did an affidavit.
Yes, but that's also assuming that the case law she's citing has application in this particular instance.
Who decides this? Does this judge or somebody above his boss? I mean, how does this go? Like, just because is she firing him? I don't know what she's doing.
So, Joe, can you go back up to the top of the document? Yeah, I agree with what Zara's saying. I think there's a paralegal typing exactly what Lori's saying. It is Sovereign Citizen World Salad. Usually the filings that we get are not the signed copies. Sometimes they are, but not always. So this is a motion to disqualify the judge. And, it's filed. So I don't really know how this works as far as who this would go to, but I would guess that Judge Bresky is the one that gets to rule on this motion. It's accompanied by an affidavit.
Right there. Yep.
But I don't know. I'm typing in the chat GPT, see what it comes up with.
And there is no, and this is correct, Marianne Coates. She says there is no evidence in this affidavit. It's just Lori's conjecture. She's not saying I, Lori Daybell, witnessed the facial expression of Judge Bresky change from indifferent to enraged on this date when he was quoted as saying this she's not giving evidence. So I don't know.
Right. So what's that affidavit called? So I can type this in.
It's just an affidavit.
Okay.
But while you're typing that in, can we go to Trina's? Sorry.
Yes. We can do that.
Type. If a defendant files a motion to what with the judge to
well, she's filing a motion for the judge to be dismissed from the case.
Dismiss the judge.
And for the case to be dismissed.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
I'm struggling to remember whether or not the going over the electronic questionnaires, if that portion was broadcast to the public. Because if I remember correctly,
I think it was.
There was some business before the court prior to that happening that we did get to, that I think you guys got to hear, like the people watching.
Yes, on going over the questionnaires, but once the jury came in person, that was not broadcast.
Right. Beck says Lori's trying to speak to the manager, but Judge Boreski is also the manager. I like that. All right, let's look at what Trina says.
Hold on, I got to take a quick break. I'll be right back.
Okay.
2 and 2.
I'm actually gonna go. I'm gonna go pull it up because I think I have it too. Oh, maybe I don't. I don't have it.
So I finally got an answer, and so it said in Maricopa County Superior Court, if a defendant like Lori Daybell files a motion to be dismissed from a criminal case, that's not what I asked. Maybe
motion
I did.
To disqualify the judge.
Let me try this again.
Is what it's called.
Let me edit it. So take the torch for a minute. Let's see.
I don't really know where to go with the torch because
I'll tell you.
Facts and the reasons for the belief that such bias or prejudice exist. The facts and the reasons for the belief that such bias or prejudice exist are statement of the facts above. So she's saying the facts are the facts that I stated. Because, in an affidavit, you have to list the facts.
These are her beliefs. And I mean, from that document that was turned in by Ian Pulowski, it states, if you can imagine it, then it is real. I swear to God, that's one of the bullet points. So this says grounds for disqualification. Okay. In Maricopa County, Arizona, the procedure for a defendant to file a motion to dismiss a judge, known as a motion for disqualification or recusal, is governed by Rule 10.1 of the Arizona Rules of Criminal Procedure. And so here's a breakdown of the procedure and policy. Number 1, grounds for disqualification, Rule 10.1A. Let me take a drink. The most common ground for a judge's disqualification is if, quote, the assigned judge's interest or prejudice would prevent a fair and impartial hearing or trial, unquote. This is the core allegation Lori Daybell has made in her recent motion. I didn't even know it knew that. Citing, quote, personal bias or prejudice against her, unquote. Other grounds include the judge has personal knowledge of disputed evidentiary facts. The judge has a personal bias or prejudice concerning a party or lawyer. The judge or a close family member has a financial interest in the case. That's weird. The judge has served as a lawyer in the matter. The judge has made public statements committing to a particular outcome. So it says in Lori Daybell's case, her specific allegations as reported include personal bias or prejudice. She claims the judge has denied, quote, every single motion of mine, unquote, for
every single motion.
Yeah. Indicating a pattern of unfairness. Speedy trial rule violation. She may allege that the judge's actions or inactions have led to a violation of her right to a speedy trial. And then religious beliefs, discrimination. She specifically cited words Judge Boreski said during trial proceedings on April 9th, claiming religious discrimination. Number 2, procedure for filing the motion, which is Rule 10.1, and this is B. Timing. A party must file the motion, quote, no later than 10 days after discovering that grounds exist, but may not file a motion after a hearing or trial begins. However, if the allegations of interest or prejudice arise after the hearing or trial commences, they can be preserved for appeal by making a quote, and this is quoted, appropriate motion, unquote. Lori's repeated accusations during proceedings suggest she's attempting to preserve these issues. That's what went through my head. Form. The motion, quote, must state specific grounds for the change of judge and be supported by an affidavit, unquote. An affidavit is a sworn written statement which Lori reportedly included. This is crucial as it provides the factual basis for her claims under oath.
But again, she didn't cite any facts. And as Zara pointed out a little earlier in the chat, it says the affidavit has to have legal merit. Just because she doesn't like the way he looks is not legal merit. Just because she feels like he's violated it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, she came out of nowhere, really.
Shall we take a look at what Trina thinks about it?
Yes, please.
All right. This came down
like 3 more. Sorry.
this afternoon. This is the state's response to the defendant's motion to disqualify Judge Beresky, signed to the Honorable Justin Beresky, Division CRJ25. All right. The state of Arizona, through the undersigned counsel, blah, blah, blah. Defendant's motion should be denied. What? That's crazy talk. What do you mean it should be denied? Since it failed to establish any, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. We're missing words. It's so hard to understand. Can we get somebody to proofread these things before they file them with the court? Come on. Since established any judicial bias, since it failed to establish any judicial bias, appearance of bias, or fundamental error. Trina, like, you can hire me for around $100,000 a year. Like, I would come work for you for like $100,000 a year and clean up all these documents.
You know, she's got a great paralegal. I got to meet her paralegal, and to her credit, and maybe in her defense, she said that she's never had to file more pretrial motions in her whole career than she's had to do with this one. And I don't know what the time is, like the time stamp is on this or whatever, but there have been many of these motions that she's responded to on weekends in the middle of the night, like not the middle of the night, but late at night, you know.
Right.
It's like she's Lori is throwing everything that she's got and the kitchen sink, you know, and I'm sure it's a lot to keep up with. So I get it.
I get it. I'm just giving her a hard time.
Yeah.
And I'm saying I'm available for hire.
I will pay to see that confrontation take place real life.
Right.
I would pay to see it. I love Trina. I think she is, I mean, I agree with you. Like, you're just giving her a hard time. It's cool. Like, not a big deal, but she's tough as nails, and I would not want to be on her bad side. Let me just put it that way.
Right. No. And guess who is on her bad side?
Lori Daybell.
Yeah.
Defendant's motion to disqualify the judge relies, stay up there on that page, relies heavily upon the fact that Judge Beresky has provided legal reasons to deny many of the defendant's motions. He sustained objections made during the last trial, and that he found no prejudice in the defendant when he excluded 18 days and scheduled this trial to begin on June 30th. That's to begin on June 30th? No, we're beginning on May 30th, 29th.
June 2nd.
June 2nd, yeah.
Well, jury selection. So jury selection
I'm just saying
technically. Jury selection begins tomorrow, technically, because they're going to bring in the electronic responses and go over those and exclude the jurors that should be excluded based on those responses. And on Friday, the jurors are going to come in, and there's going to be voir dire on Friday.
Yeah. So Nikki 0777 is saying that that this filing that Lori filed will go to the presiding judge. So it does go to Judge Beresky's boss, basically.
Interesting. I don't know any problem that he would find with it, but you never know.
Yeah, I think if anything, he might call Judge Beresky in and say, "What did you say?" You know.
Well, Judge Beresky admitted in his last ruling that he shouldn't have commented. So this was
right.
The only thing that he admitted to was that when when he made a comment onto Trina's objection to Lori asking about Moroni or Nephi or whoever it was.
They were biblical figures.
Yes.
Yeah.
Judge Bareski said, inasmuch as you are comparing yourself to a biblical or religious figure, you are allowed to continue. And then he said, I shouldn't have said that. I should have just ruled on it. Objection sustained or denied. You know, he shouldn't have ruled on it. So that's the only mistake that he's acknowledged. And it doesn't appear to have prejudiced the jury at all.
You know, it doesn't. And also I just have to once again give Judge Bareski props, because rather than just dismissing Lori as a lunatic and trying to get her out of the way, he actually takes the time to consider the arguments that she makes, even when it's a bad argument, even when it has no legal merit, even when it has no basis in law. He takes the time to consider it. And what I see in that, in his admission, is him looking at his conduct across the trial and saying, is there any possible way that I could have been out of line anywhere?
Yeah.
He's really taking a hard look at himself. Yeah, he reflects and he says, yep. You know, I probably shouldn't have said that. And that was great. That was honestly awesome. I'm glad he did that.
Yeah.
In an abundance of caution, you know, just to make sure we don't want any kind of a, you know, grounds for repeal.
Exactly.
I agree, Liti. Yeah.
All right. So
that's the whole response?
No, that's page 1.
Okay.
We have a couple more pages to go through.
Okay.
He says, schedule this trial to begin on June 30th. We know it's beginning May 30th.
Right.
The defendant previously incorporated her allegations of judicial bias in her motion for a new trial regarding the previous trial. She also made an oral motion to disqualify this judge. Yes, she did. So
yes,
you're not going to disqualify yourself? No.
No, I'm denying your motion. Anything else?
She's exalted.
Yeah.
In the 2021 case, the judge issued a minute or a minute entry.
Entry, yeah.
Entry. No, minute. I'm going to change it. I'm changing it right
now. Foyer.
Right. Foyer. A minute entry providing his reasoning for denying a new trial based on defendant's allegations of impartiality by the judge. On May 14th, which was that last hearing, the court put on the record his reasons for denying the defendant's motion for the judge to excuse himself. The court put on the record that he had no personal bias towards the defendant. He did. He said, what personal bias? That he has accommodated her request. He has over accommodated her request, that he has allowed her additional time beyond that allowed in the rules to obtain expert testimony, and that denying her motions when they had no legal basis is not evidence of bias. Amen.
Yep.
A trial judge is presumed to be free of bias and prejudice, and a defendant must show by a preponderance of the evidence is a legal threshold, that the trial judge was in fact biased. State versus Ramsey.
Preponderance of the evidence.
Yes.
That's a pretty heavy burden.
It is. It's not proof beyond a reasonable doubt, but it's the next lower threshold beyond proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Preponderance of the evidence.
She exhausts me.
She exhausts all of us.
Just Lori. God dang.
Yeah, she exhausts all of us.
It's like you go in the weeds. I'll dive down any rabbit hole, but the weeds I gotta stay away from.
Yeah. not in a, in a judicial way or legal way or with the filing of motions or whatever, but this is what it's like to be in a relationship with a narcissist all the time. These kinds of arguments, this kind of posturing and grandstanding, grandiosity, belief in their absolute innocence. I mean, that's just what it's like.
Yeah.
I feel so bad for those of you who have been in a relationship like this. Like, it's mentally taxing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Trina K is involved in a relationship with a narcissist, and she has no choice in the matter. She has to engage.
Yep. And that's, we all find ourselves in that position from time to time, whether it's a short transaction or whether it's a long-term employment or whatever the case is. We all have to deal with people like this from time to time. And that's why I said Judge Boreski, Nancy Joe, textbook ways of dealing with somebody like this.
Yeah. And you also talk about how people, whether it be in work, like you can work with these people, you can this instance right here where you're having to prosecute
or co-parent
or be the judge or co-parent. Yeah. So,
all right.
Keep on
reading on. In Toomey, the Supreme Court found that it violates the 14th Amendment and deprives a defendant in a criminal case of due process of law to subject his liberty or property to the judgment of the court, the judge of which has direct personal, substantial, pecuniary interest in reaching a conclusion against him. All right, this is Trina's motion, so I don't know where she's going with this. I really don't. I'm lost.
Scroll back up for 1 second and just let me scan it one more time.
Yeah, maybe you can figure this out.
Toomey, the Supreme Court found that it violates the 14th Amendment and deprives a defendant in a criminal case of the due process of law to subject his liberty or property to the judgment of a court, the judge of which has a direct, personal, substantial, pecuniary interest in reaching a conclusion against him. The court, applying the standard, the court has found judicial recusal constitutionally required only in rare circumstances. So that's basically what she's saying, is like, there is no, yes, the judge does violate the 14th Amendment if there's prejudice, but it should only be applied in rare cases because, as she said before, a trial judge is presumed to be free of bias. That's their whole job. They don't get appointed as judges if they show bias in their career. So, for example, when the judge has a financial interest in the outcome of a case, or in the criminal contempt context, where a judge has no pecuniary interest in the case, but was challenged because of a conflict arising from his participation in an earlier proceeding that suggested he had a strong interest in the outcome. So there's no evidence that the judge has a financial interest in the outcome of this case. In Granados, the defendant alleged bias based on the judge's rulings and admonishments to him regarding his behavior in the courtroom. Granados claims the trial court gave the appearance of bias by not allowing Granados to interrupt court proceedings, removing him from the courtroom during voir dire, and sustain general objections during Granados' testimony. Granados further cited to the fact that the judge sub sponte objected to the admission of testimony and prevented the court interpreter from translating the inadmissible hearsay. The Arizona Court of Appeals found these allegations did not establish judicial bias, the appearance of bias, or any fundamental error. So in that case, if in that case it didn't work, it's not going to work here either. Defendant's arguments in support of judicial bias are similar to the allegations made by the defendant in Granados. Defendant's motion to disqualify the judge should be denied since the defendant has not established any judicial bias, appearance of bias, or fundamental error. Amen.
Yep.
And as Zara pointed out before, she would have had to file this 20 days before trial. She's late again. So I don't think she's getting a new judge. That's all.
I hope not. Oh my gosh.
No, it's not happening.
That would just suck.
And Zara points out too, they also have to consider whether or not this affidavit was filed in good faith. Was it? I don't think so. It was not.
Right.
I don't think this was Lori going, I think I have an actual conclusion of law here, and here's what I'm going to argue. No, it's not well thought out. It's not in good faith. It's just obvious.
Resentment. It's retaliation. Yeah.
It's a temper tantrum.
Yep.
I didn't get acquitted. The judge was against me. The state was against me. The rack belt was against me.
Oh my gosh, right?
Daddy didn't let me go out with my friends on Friday night. That's what I hear. That's what I hear.
That's, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why are you grounding me for something I definitely did? That's so unfair.
He's like, are you done? Yeah.
Stop pointing out my obvious mistakes. That's rude.
Right.
Goodness. Well, I love hanging out with you guys. I felt like I hung out with you all day because I listened to your 3-hour episode earlier today while I was working up in the attic. So
I binged on yours the other night too, and they were good. So yeah, that's how we roll.
I appreciate the connection that you're making between Tim Ballard and OUR and this, and I think let's keep working on it, because I liked your suggestion that we need to go over some stuff together.
Yeah.
And we might as well do it on the live, because why not? It's so much fun.
And yeah.
But yeah, so let's schedule some time over the weekend and try to dig into that stuff and connect some dots.
Good. I'm
Absolutely.
down. Yeah.
Thank you all for hanging out. Thanks, Mods.
I'm going to take
Thanks,
a potty
chat.
break before I go to Web Sleuths. So hopefully I'll see y'all over there. Thank you so much for everything, Joe and Krisha.
I wanted to remind you, Megan, about Summer's text with Lori about the Tesla incident. And yeah, I was trying to pull that up before you left, but I might just text it over to you or something.
Yeah, just shoot it to me, because I it's been way too long since I've read those. Yeah. And I just read the texts that were related to Charles's murder. Mm-hmm. And those were mind-blowing, but yeah, I do want to revisit those before tomorrow for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, good. Thank you.
All right. Love you guys.
Thanks,
everybody.
Love you.
Thanks, Krisha. Good night.
Bye. Good night. Bye, y'all.
Good evening. Come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. Good evening. Come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. If we put in the time. Good evening. Come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime.